Good evening, everyone. I want to start by talking about something we all value deeply: freedom. Freedom is the air we breathe, it's the light we walk toward, and it's what every generation strives for. But here's the thing about freedom. Freedom isn't free. It comes at a price, and that price is responsibility. See, freedom is not just the ability to do whatever we want when we want. When we do what we want when we want. Freedom is the ability to choose our actions, to choose our words, to choose how we impact the world. And when you can choose, you have to be willing to own those choices. It's that simple. We talk about how we want freedom, but we don't always talk about what it takes to hold it. Responsibility means stepping up and standing firm in the face of challenges. And it means taking accountability when things go wrong. It means realizing that the choices we make today will shape the tomorrow of the people we love, and even the people we've never met. We don't get to choose just for ourselves. We choose for the world around us. Freedom without responsibility is chaos. Without responsibility, freedom loses its meaning. So what does that mean for us? It means we have to be accountable every day. Every step we take, we need to understand that our freedom is not a privilege, it's a duty. A duty to ourselves, to our families, and to our communities. A duty to make this world a better place, not just for us, but for everyone who comes after. When you understand that, when you embrace the weight of that responsibility, that's when you know the true value of freedom. Because you understand that you don't just take, you give. You don't just take what's owed to you, you give to those who need it. You sacrifice for others. That is the price of freedom. Freedom is not free. This is a statement that resonates deeply with anyone who has ever fought for or cherished their liberty. We often hear the phrase, freedom isn't free, tossed around, especially during times of conflict or political upheaval. But the true weight of this idea is not always fully understood. We tend to focus on the privileges that freedom grants us. The ability to live without fear of oppression, to make our own choices, to pursue our dreams, to speak our minds, to shape our own lives according to our own values. But if we take a step back and look at the larger picture, it becomes clear that the price of freedom is not always something tangible, something easily seen in the form of taxes or sacrifice. The true cost of freedom is something far deeper, and it is something we all must confront: responsibility. Responsibility is the often overlooked side of the freedom coin. For every action we take, for every choice we make, for every word we speak, there is a consequence, and those consequences are not just limited to us as individuals. They ripple out into the world, impacting others in ways we may not always see or understand. This is where the responsibility lies. It's not enough to just have the right to make a choice. With that right comes the duty to understand the potential outcomes of our choices, to recognize that freedom is not about acting without restraint, but about acting with awareness, with care, and with a sense of the greater good. In the simplest terms, when we have freedom, we have the power to shape our own destinies. We can decide where we live, what we do, who we associate with, and how we contribute to the world. But the very fact that we have the power to make these choices means we also bear the responsibility for them. If we choose to ignore the impact of our actions, if we fail to acknowledge that others are affected by the paths we take, then we are abusing our freedom. We may feel that we have the right to act in whatever way we please, but the truth is, our actions always extend beyond us. Our freedom, no matter how personal it may seem, is inherently intertwined with the freedoms and lives of those around us. The responsibility that comes with freedom is not always easy to shoulder. It demands that we think critically about the choices we make, that we consider the long-term effects of our actions, and that we hold ourselves accountable when things go wrong. It's tempting to blame external forces for our misfortunes, to say that the world is unfair, or that we had no other choice. But true freedom doesn't allow for such excuses. Freedom gives us the power to choose, yes, but it also gives us the obligation to own those choices and their consequences. When we take responsibility for our actions, we begin to understand the true meaning of freedom. The idea of responsibility extends beyond our individual actions and into the collective. In a society where freedom is cherished, it is not enough for each person to pursue their own desires without thought for the community. Our freedoms are connected to each other. What we do affects the people around us, and what they do affects us. This interconnectedness creates a web of responsibility that binds us together. If we are free to express ourselves, if we are free to act according to our will, we are responsible for the impact our actions have on others. This is especially evident in the ways that individual freedoms can clash with the freedoms of others. The freedom to speak one's mind, for example, is a powerful right, but it comes with the responsibility to ensure that speech does not harm, oppress, or incite violence. The freedom to live our lives as we choose is a gift, but it carries the responsibility to do so in a way that respects the rights and freedoms of others. The idea that freedom is inextricably linked with responsibility also means that freedom cannot be claimed in isolation. We cannot speak of our own freedom without considering the freedoms of those around us. If we want to live in a society where freedom is truly valued, we must work together to ensure that every person's freedom is respected and protected. This means that we have to recognize when our actions undermine the freedom of others and take steps to correct that. It's not enough to enjoy our own liberty. We must also defend the liberty of those who may not have the same privileges or opportunities. Our freedom is in essence only as strong as the freedom of those who share this world with us. We often hear about the sacrifices that have been made for freedom, the soldiers who have fought on battlefields, the civil rights activists who have stood up to injustice, the countless individuals who have given their lives in the pursuit of liberty. But the price of freedom is not just paid by those who are visibly involved in these battles. It is paid by each of us every single day in the choices we make, in the responsibilities we bear. It is paid in the ways we treat others, in the ways we engage with the world around us, and in the ways we confront the consequences of our actions. Freedom requires us to rise to the occasion and embrace the responsibility that comes with it. It is easy to think of freedom as a one-way street, something we take for ourselves and hold close. But true freedom is not something to be hoarded. It is something to be used wisely, with the understanding that every act of freedom is balanced by the weight of responsibility. In this way, freedom is not just about what we gain, but about what we give. The price of freedom is the responsibility to live honorably, to make choices that benefit not only ourselves, but also those around us, and to recognize that with every privilege comes a corresponding duty. It's this balance that ensures our freedom remains meaningful, grounded, and worthy of the price we pay for it. Freedom grants us the power to choose. In a world where we are free to make decisions about nearly every aspect of our lives, the weight of that power can feel both exhilarating and overwhelming. We often think of freedom as the ultimate gift, the right to live our lives as we see fit, to chase our dreams and to make our own decisions. But what many fail to recognize is that with the ability to choose comes an equally important responsibility, the responsibility to own those choices. The power of choice is one of the most defining aspects of human freedom. Whether it's the small, everyday decisions or the monumental, life-altering ones, we are constantly making choices. Every choice we make is an expression of our freedom, a reflection of the autonomy we possess. The ability to choose what we eat, where we live, whom we love, what career we pursue. These are all expressions of our freedom, our capacity to direct our lives in the way we deem best for ourselves. In this way, freedom allows us to carve out a path that is uniquely our own, a path that reflects our values, our desires, and our dreams. However, the power of choice does not exist in a vacuum. It is intertwined with the reality that every decision we make carries consequences, both seen and unseen. When we make a choice, we are not just affecting our own lives, but the lives of others as well. Our choices impact those around us, our families, our communities, even the world at large. Every action, no matter how small, ripples outward, creating effects that we might not fully understand in the moment. This is where accountability comes in. To be truly free is not just to make choices, but to own those choices, to take responsibility for the outcomes they produce. Owning our choices means accepting that the decisions we make are ours and ours alone. It means acknowledging that we cannot blame others for the results of our actions. In a world where it is often easier to pass the blame, to point fingers, and to deflect responsibility, owning our choices requires courage and integrity. It requires us to stand up and say, I made this choice. I accept whatever comes from it, good or bad. This level of accountability is not always easy to embrace. It is often much more comfortable to blame external circumstances or other people when things go wrong. But this is the easy way out, and it is the antithesis of true freedom. When we shift the blame, we relinquish control over our own lives. We become passive observers instead of active participants in our own story. True freedom demands that we take ownership, that we face the consequences of our decisions with honesty and grace. At the heart of accountability is the understanding that our choices shape our lives. We are the architects of our own futures, and the decisions we make today lay the foundation for the life we will live tomorrow. This means that freedom is not about having endless options or the ability to do whatever we please. Freedom is about being able to choose, but then standing firmly behind those choices and taking responsibility for where they lead. When we fail to take ownership of our decisions, we undermine our own sense of freedom. We are no longer exercising true autonomy. We are allowing external factors to control our lives. It is also important to recognize that the responsibility to own our choices extends beyond just ourselves. Every choice we make has a ripple effect that touches the lives of others. Our actions affect our families, our friends, our co-workers, and even strangers who we may never meet. The decisions we make as individuals have the potential to influence the course of entire communities, organizations, and societies. For example, a decision to act with integrity or compassion can inspire others to do the same, creating a ripple of positivity. On the other hand, a decision to act selfishly or irresponsibly can cause harm and disruption. In this sense, freedom is not just a personal right, it is a shared responsibility. The choices we make are not made in isolation. They are part of a larger web of interactions that ultimately shape the world we live in. When we take responsibility for our choices, we also give ourselves the opportunity to grow. Owning our decisions allows us to learn from both our successes and our failures. Every choice carries a lesson, and when we are accountable for our actions, we open ourselves up to the possibility of growth. We stop seeing our mistakes as failures and instead view them as opportunities to learn, adapt, and improve. The path to wisdom is paved with the choices we make and the lessons we learn from them. To shy away from accountability is to deny ourselves the opportunity to evolve. It is to remain stagnant in the face of our own potential. The relationship between choice and accountability is one of the most important dynamics in our lives. Freedom without accountability is like a ship without a rudder. It may drift in any direction, but it is not being steered toward anything purposeful. Without accountability, freedom becomes reckless, a force that pushes us in random directions without concern for the consequences. But when we take responsibility for our choices, we gain control. We become the captains of our own ships, steering our lives toward the destinations we choose with intention and purpose. In this way, freedom is not about the absence of limits, but about the ability to navigate those limits responsibly. To fully embrace freedom is to accept the power of choice and the responsibility that comes with it. It is to recognize that our decisions shape not only our own lives, but the lives of others as well. It is to understand that every action has a consequence, and that we are responsible for the impact we have on the world. When we own our choices, we are not just exercising our freedom, we are living with integrity, with honor, and with a deep respect for the power we have to shape our lives and the world around us. Every decision we make has the potential to shape the lives of others. This is a profound truth that we often overlook in the hustle and bustle of our daily lives. We tend to think of our choices as isolated actions, decisions that affect only ourselves or the immediate people in our lives. But the reality is far more complex. Every choice we make ripples outward, touching people, places, and situations we may never directly encounter. The impact of our actions extends far beyond us, often in ways that are invisible but no less real. Understanding this is key to living with intention, awareness, and responsibility. When we make a decision, whether it's something as mundane as choosing what to eat for dinner or as significant as deciding to change careers, we are not simply affecting our own lives. The choices we make send waves of influence into the world, creating effects that often have far-reaching consequences. Even the smallest actions can set off a chain of events that alter the course of someone else's life. For example, when we choose to act with kindness, we don't just improve our own day, we may brighten the life of a stranger who needed that encouragement at that moment. In this way, our actions create a ripple effect that extends beyond the immediate interaction, influencing the people we touch, and in turn, the people they touch. It's easy to think that we are separate from the rest of the world, that our decisions only matter in the context of our own personal lives. But the truth is, we are all interconnected. The web of human relationships and interactions is vast, and our choices are part of this intricate system. Consider the fact that every person we meet, every community we belong to, and every interaction we have is influenced by the decisions made by others. Whether it's the person who chose to support a cause that we later become passionate about, or the individual who reached out to offer us a helping hand when we were struggling, we are shaped by the choices of others in ways we may never fully understand. In the same way, our decisions leave their mark on those we encounter, whether we recognize it or not. One of the most powerful ways our actions extend beyond us is through the impact we have on the people we love. When we make choices, we often fail to consider the ripple effects on our family, friends, and colleagues. For example, a decision to take a job in a new city may alter not only our own life, but also the lives of the people around us. The people we leave behind may feel the weight of our absence, and those who join us in the new place may have their own experiences and perspectives shaped by our decision. Even more subtle actions, like a disagreement with a close friend, can send shockwaves through the dynamics of a relationship, affecting others in ways we didn't anticipate. Our choices are rarely contained within the boundaries of our own experience. They bleed into the lives of those we care about, affecting their emotions, decisions, and lives in ways both big and small. Beyond our immediate circles, our actions have the potential to shape the broader world. Consider the powerful influence of social movements, political actions, or even acts of kindness that inspire change. The decision of one person to stand up for what they believe in can ignite a movement that changes the course of history. Rosa Parks, by choosing not to give up her seat on the bus, didn't just affect her own life. She played a key role in the civil rights movement, changing the lives of millions of people and altering the trajectory of an entire nation. This is the undeniable power of choice. What we do today can resonate through generations, influencing people we will never meet. Similarly, individuals who choose to support causes, whether through time, money, or effort, can create a ripple effect that helps bring about change in the world. Our decisions can alter the lives of people halfway around the world, even if we are unaware of it. It's important to remember that the impact of our actions is not always positive or intentional. Sometimes our choices have negative consequences that we didn't foresee or didn't fully understand. A harsh word spoken in anger can leave a lasting wound in someone's heart, or a selfish decision may hurt others even if we never meant to cause harm. In these moments, it's crucial to take responsibility for the effects of our actions, even if they weren't intentional. Understanding that our decisions impact others, for better or for worse, allows us to be more mindful in the choices we make. It urges us to be compassionate, thoughtful, and aware of the consequences of our behavior. Every choice carries weight, and by acknowledging this, we become more deliberate in the way we live our lives. Our actions can also have a long-lasting effect on our communities. When we make decisions that prioritize the common good, we contribute to a collective well-being that extends far beyond our personal gain. Whether it's volunteering our time, standing up for a cause we believe in, or simply being a responsible and caring member of society, our actions shape the world around us. We may never know the full extent of our influence, but it is undeniable that the choices we make contribute to the fabric of society, creating an environment that nurtures the growth and development of others. It's important to recognize that the world we live in today is the result of the choices made by countless individuals before us. Similarly, the world that future generations inherit will be shaped by the decisions we make today. In a world that often values individual success and personal achievement, it's easy to forget the power we have to impact others. But the truth is, we are all part of a larger interconnected whole. Every decision we make is a thread in the tapestry of human existence, and each thread contributes to the broader picture. Our actions, no matter how small they may seem, matter. They have the power to shape the lives of others, to influence the direction of society, and to leave a lasting mark on the world. When we embrace this reality, we begin to live with greater intention, recognizing the responsibility we bear for the world we create with each decision we make. Freedom without responsibility equals chaos. This simple yet profound statement captures a deep truth about the nature of freedom. Without responsibility, freedom loses its direction, its meaning, and its very essence. Freedom is often viewed as the ultimate aspiration, the ability to act without restriction, to pursue our desires, and to live according to our own terms. But what happens when freedom is exercised without consideration for its consequences? without a sense of responsibility for how it affects others or the world around us, the result is not liberation, but disorder. It is chaos, anarchy in the truest sense of the word. The very nature of freedom requires a balance. If we are free to make choices, we must also be free to bear the consequences of those choices. Responsibility is the tether that keeps freedom grounded, that ensures it doesn't spiral out of control. When we exercise freedom without responsibility, we open the door to recklessness, selfishness, and harm. We lose sight of the greater good, the impact our actions have on others, and the values that give our lives purpose. Without responsibility, freedom becomes meaningless. It becomes a force that serves only the individual, not the collective. And in doing so, it undermines the very fabric of society that makes freedom possible. At the heart of this idea is the understanding that freedom is not just about individual liberty, it is also about the collective well-being. In a society where everyone exercises their freedom without any sense of responsibility to others, the result is chaos. When individuals pursue their own desires without regard for the rights and freedoms of others, they create an environment where everyone's freedom is compromised. It's a situation where no one can truly be free because everyone's actions are infringing upon one another. For example, if everyone were free to drive as fast as they wanted without any rules or regulations, the result would not be freedom, but danger and destruction. The freedom to drive would be meaningless because the lack of responsibility for others' safety would result in chaos on the roads. This is the fundamental truth. Freedom without responsibility undermines its own purpose. The role of responsibility in preserving freedom becomes even more critical when we consider the broader societal implications. Every action we take has a ripple effect, extending beyond our own lives and affecting the lives of others. Our choices have the power to shape the world around us. Without the responsibility to consider how our actions impact others, freedom becomes a destructive force, destabilizing relationships, communities, and even entire nations. This is why, in every functioning society, laws and moral frameworks exist to balance individual freedom with collective responsibility. These structures are not meant to restrict freedom, but to ensure that it is exercised in a way that promotes fairness, justice, and the well-being of all. When we neglect our responsibility to others, we erode the very foundation that allows freedom to thrive. Freedom without responsibility also distorts our sense of purpose. Freedom is not just about acting without constraint. It is about the ability to choose the direction of our lives in alignment with our values and goals. But when we fail to take responsibility for our choices, we lose sight of those values and goals. Without responsibility, our actions become erratic, driven by impulse or self-interest rather than purpose or meaning. We may find ourselves caught in a cycle of short-term desires and momentary pleasures, never stopping to reflect on the long-term consequences of our choices. In this way, freedom without responsibility leads to a life devoid of purpose, direction, and fulfillment. We are free to make choices, but without the responsibility to make meaningful, thoughtful decisions, those choices become hollow and ultimately unsatisfying. Furthermore, when freedom is exercised irresponsibly, it often leads to conflict. Our actions, whether intentional or not, affect others. When we prioritize our own freedom without regard for the impact it has on the lives of those around us, we create tension and division. The freedom to act without restraint leads to power struggles, inequality, and resentment. When we act without responsibility, we disregard the rights and freedoms of others, and this creates an environment where everyone is fighting for their own piece of freedom, often at the expense of others. The very thing we seek, peace, equality, and harmony, becomes impossible to achieve when freedom is exercised in isolation, without responsibility. On a personal level, the lack of responsibility for our freedom also leads to inner turmoil. When we act without considering the consequences of our choices, we often find ourselves facing regret, guilt, and frustration. Without responsibility, we lose our sense of control over our lives. We may find ourselves constantly reacting to the world around us instead of taking proactive, thoughtful steps toward the life we want to live. This can lead to a feeling of being lost or directionless as we chase after fleeting moments of freedom without ever understanding the deeper purpose behind them. Responsibility is what gives us a sense of agency, a sense that we are in control of our lives and that our actions have meaning. The balance between freedom and responsibility is essential for the functioning of both society and the individual. Without responsibility, freedom becomes an empty concept, unable to fulfill its true potential. It loses its value and becomes something chaotic and destructive rather than a force for good. Responsibility is the anchor that keeps freedom grounded in reality, ensuring that it serves not only the individual, but the collective. It reminds us that freedom is not just about the ability to do whatever we want. It is about the ability to make choices that are thoughtful, purposeful, and aligned with the greater good. When we embrace the responsibility that comes with freedom, we can use our liberty to build a better world, a more just and compassionate society. Responsibility does not limit freedom, it enhances it, giving it meaning and direction. It allows us to live freely, but in a way that respects the rights and freedoms of others. In this way, responsibility is not a burden on freedom, but its most powerful expression. Without responsibility, freedom becomes meaningless. With responsibility, freedom becomes the force that drives us to live with integrity, to create positive change, and to build a world where everyone's freedom is respected and protected. Responsibility is a duty. It is not an optional part of life, but a fundamental obligation that we each bear. We live in a world that often emphasizes personal rights, freedom, and independence, but we must not forget that freedom comes with the duty to improve the lives of others. It is easy to see freedom as a chance to claim what is rightfully ours, to pursue our desires, and to live as we wish. But the true essence of freedom is not only in what we can take, but in what we can give. To be free is to have the power to contribute to the greater good, to recognize that our actions have the potential to impact others, and to embrace the duty to make the world better for those around us. At its core, responsibility is the understanding that we are not isolated beings. We are part of a larger system, a web of relationships and community. What we do, how we act, and the choices we make ripple outward, affecting others in ways we might not immediately see. Every action we take, from the smallest gesture of kindness to the most significant decisions, influences the world around us. To ignore this fact is to live with blinders on, as if the only person that matters is ourselves. But true freedom recognizes that our lives are intertwined with others. Our freedom is not just about what we can take, it is also about what we can give. It is about using our liberty to lift others, to help those in need, and to contribute to the well-being of the community we are part of. This idea of giving is central to the concept of responsibility. Responsibility is not something that is thrust upon us or burdens us from the outside. It is something we choose to embrace. It is the understanding that we have the power, the privilege, and the duty to use our freedom in a way that enhances the lives of others. It's easy to fall into the trap of believing that freedom is about grabbing hold of what we want without considering the impact on others. But true freedom is not selfish. It is not about taking. It is about recognizing that the choices we make, the actions we take, and the resources we have are not just for our own benefit. They are tools we can use to make the world a better place for everyone. The duty to embrace responsibility is not just about grand acts of charity or heroism. It is about the everyday choices we make. It is about how we treat the people around us, how we use our time, how we spend our resources, and how we respond to the needs of others. Every interaction we have with another human being is an opportunity to give something back to the world. A kind word, a helping hand, a moment of patience. These are all ways in which we exercise our responsibility and contribute to the well-being of others. We often think that we have to do something extraordinary to make a difference, but the truth is that it's the small, consistent acts of kindness and responsibility that have the power to change the world. When we choose to take responsibility for our actions, we choose to make the world better, even in ways that may not be immediately visible. The duty to give is also about the way we approach our work, our families, and our communities. It's about using our talents and abilities not just for our own success, but for the benefit of others. In our jobs, we have the responsibility to contribute to the collective success of the organization, to work not just for personal gain, but for the good of the team, the company, and the community. In our families, we have the responsibility to care for one another, to support and nurture the people we love, and to create an environment where everyone can thrive. In our communities, we have the responsibility to be active participants, to contribute to the common good, and to ensure that the world around us is a place where everyone can experience freedom and opportunity. This duty to give is not just about acts of charity or volunteerism. It is about the mindset we bring to every area of our lives. It's about understanding that our freedom to act comes with the obligation to think beyond ourselves and to consider how we can help others. Freedom without the duty to give leads to selfishness and greed. When we view freedom only as something to be claimed, something that exists solely for our own benefit, we lose sight of the greater purpose of our lives. We become trapped in a cycle of constantly seeking more wealth, more power, more attention, without ever considering the impact of our actions on others. The more we take, the less fulfilled we become, because true satisfaction doesn't come from accumulating things or experiences. It comes from contributing to something larger than ourselves. It comes from knowing that our actions, our choices, and our freedom have a positive impact on the world around us. On the other hand, when we embrace the duty to give, we unlock the true potential of our freedom. We understand that our lives are not just about what we can take, but about what we can give to the people around us. We recognize that we have the power to create positive change, to uplift others, and to make a lasting impact on the world. When we take responsibility for our actions, when we choose to give rather than take, we find a deeper sense of fulfillment and purpose. We find that the more we give, the more we receive. Not in material wealth, but in the richness of connection, in the satisfaction of knowing that we are making a difference. The duty to give is also about understanding that freedom is not just an individual pursuit. It is a collective endeavor. We live in a world where our actions have the power to shape the lives of others, for better or for worse. Our freedom to choose is not just about us. It is about everyone we share this world with. When we embrace our responsibility to contribute to the greater good, we create a world where freedom is not just a privilege for a few, but a reality for all. We create a society where everyone's needs are met, where everyone has the opportunity to thrive, and where everyone's voice is heard. This is the true power of freedom, the ability to give, to contribute, and to make the world a better place for everyone. In the end, freedom is not just about taking, it is about giving. It is about embracing the duty to use our freedom to make the world better for those around us. It is about recognizing that our actions have the power to impact others, and that true fulfillment comes not from what we can take, but from what we can give. When we embrace this responsibility, we unlock the full potential of our freedom and create a world where everyone can experience true liberty. Freedom that is not just for the individual, but for the collective. So, my friends, let us carry this responsibility with pride. Let us use our freedom wisely, knowing that with each choice we make, we honor the gift that it is. Stand tall, stand strong, and remember, freedom is a gift, but responsibility is the price we pay. Thank you.